The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup.
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State home!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth! What a comeback!
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 245th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and once again, fortunate, I've been fortunate kind of through most of September. I am ready to talk about NFL football today.
Yeah, you're having a pretty good month, and especially the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Things are pretty good. Hopefully,
yeah, can't complain. Hopefully, we don't go like 2 full months between wins now. So that would
like
be,
last year.
That would be key. Yeah.
I'm hoping that when we do this show again in 2 weeks,
yes,
we
I
can
agree.
say the
I
same
full-heartedly
thing,
agree.
because whether or not the Eagles
and
win, that doesn't affect me.
No, you just hope I get another
Yeah, if you get a trifecta in 2 weeks, I'll be very happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that in a little bit.
Oh, sure, for sure. So here we are, 245th episode, kind of crazy. Think of how many we've done. But our main topic, as usual, is the NFL, pro football. Here we are, week 5 already, if you can believe it. And I'd like to say some teams are distancing themselves, but we got a lot of nothing. I feel when looking around the NFL and most of the teams' records or how they've been performing. I don't know that there's really a completely dominant team to date. I mean, I guess the team that's getting ready to play now that's undefeated maybe can claim that honor, but they had a close one last week, and some people are doubting them this week.
Right, exactly. So it'll be interesting. I think we'll know more in about three hours or so. Have a better idea of what that is going to look like. But other than that, yeah, there's no one really separating themselves as a really top tier team. Now, it's kind of crazy. They're more than a quarter of the way through their games. Not through the season yet, but through their games. Most of the teams. So, I did wear this shirt. My Eagles, and it it's the the jersey. It's got Wentz on the back. So, Anyway, we'll talk more about that game in a little bit, but definitely was wearing the shirt today.
I'm just wearing a show shirt.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of like a Jay Cutler shirt because he seems blue all the time.
Well, he may be after today's game.
Hey, yeah, so I've got a stat for that game too. But
well, let's start on Thursday night,
yeah,
where we, where the week gets kicked off, and we'll kick off the show with it. Patriots, Buccaneers, New England not looking like the dominant team we expected them to be this year. They got hammered a bit on opening night by the Chiefs, who we just alluded to a few moments ago. And they haven't looked great in their wins. And they were coming off a loss to the Panthers where the defense looked awful once again.
Right.
But there was no way they were going to lose 3 times in the first 5 weeks, right?
Well, thanks to Jameis Winston and crew, not just him, but and crew, the Patriots did manage to get a win. They won 19-14. However, I know it's one thing to be like, oh well, if they would have played better. Well, obviously, if they would have played better, but if you watch this game, Tampa really, really looked not that good. And I think, honestly, I still feel like this game tells us more about the Bucs than it does about the Patriots. Patriots found a way to win, which is what teams are going to do, especially good teams. And I am still taking the attitude on the Patriots of, when I'll believe they're not good? When they're sitting at like 6-10, and the season is over.
When they're not in the playoffs,
then I'll believe they're not good. Until that happens, and just for the record, to our New England listener, I'm not saying they're 6-10. Like that's what I'm trying to say is, I still think they're going to be there, and they're going to be right there at the top of the AFC East and the AFC, and competing, come those cold games at the end of the year. So when you look at, they didn't win. It wasn't a good, pretty win. Like you would expect them to bounce back. Yeah, they were a Thursday night road team. So how do we generally take, when we look at that Thursday night on the road, we usually write those teams off pretty much from the beginning. So, but they do have their issues, and you could see that. And Tampa wasn't able to exploit that really at all.
Neither team living up to the hype we gave to them entering the season.
No.
Now I know you were a Falcons bandwagon for the NFC South, and I was all about the Buccaneers. I still think, even with a win by the Panthers that we'll talk about in a little bit, I still think that division's open for any of the teams, really. Even New Orleans, who I wasn't that high on, has at times looked like they could put up a fight with the other three teams.
Yeah.
But Falcons, Panthers, definitely right now after 5 weeks at the top, but all of them have had their issues.
The thing that I look at here, though, is, okay, so with the Patriots, their defense is awful. But so are the Bucs. The Bucs defense is bad. And I know you're like, oh, well, they held New England to 19 points. That, again, I wouldn't really, peg it on that. They are bad. And for this is supposed to be a team that has offensive weapons, but is supposed to have, they've spent a lot of draft picks and things like that on defense over the last few years. So it's kind of interesting that they don't have, they're not really able to stop a lot of guys here. So, as New England comes in, we'll kind of see how it plays out. But while there are still concerns in New England, I think they're going to be fine. Maybe not the dominant team that's going undefeated like everybody said was going to happen this offseason. But I think there's much more room for concern in Tampa. Because I know if you look at the standings, it doesn't really show that, but look at the divisions, right? The way Atlanta's playing, the way Carolina's playing, and like you mentioned, the way the Saints are playing, they're no gimme either. That's going to be a really tough division. The way the AFC East teams are playing, we'll get to those results, from this week in just a minute, but some teams had a chance to put some distance between themselves and the Patriots, and they didn't do it. So, and the other teams, well, I don't even know.
Well, it has been a weird year so far. There's no dominant team that we've been used to over the last few years, and maybe that's good. It's a bit odd, but it's different, so we'll see how it goes. I want to see good football, and I'm not sure we're getting that. I guess that's more of my problem than the lack of a dominant team or teams stepping up. Is we just seems to be sloppy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the lack of cohesion and practice time because of the changes to the CBA finally catching up, or if it's an aberration, or if it's something else. Something is just not clicking with everyone.
Right, yeah, and I feel like it is one of those things that's interesting because, when the CBA immediately changed, and I don't know that this is the case, but when it immediately changed, you didn't see that drop-off right away. Well, that's because you had all those guys who are veterans in the league, but now you're starting to have guys who are a few years into their careers who they've played the entire time under that. So when you think about those practices over the years, now, again, don't take me wrong, you could look at it one of two ways. And, like, I'm sure there are some people who are like, exactly. And that's why we had to cut down on that regardless of the product because, countless extra times, you're prolonging careers, all that stuff. Okay, that's a valid point. But at the same time, I think you are starting to see a drop-off in the quality. And it seems different. I don't know how different it actually is, but it certainly seems different when you're watching it.
Yeah, for sure. So
maybe some of that too is our access to like all around the league. Like I know red zone and things like that aren't like brand new anymore, but like you basically get to see like every score of every game if you want to now. And like we didn't have that for a long time. You got the 2 or 3 games that were on in your TV market every week, and that was it. You know what I mean? Well, sorry. And then you got the primetime games. So even if you wanted to, you got a handful of games every week. That's all you got to see. Now you get to see every team in the league, like any game you want, basically. I think that might be some of the change in perspective a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. I mean, I enjoy Red Zone completely.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I honestly have. I went to the Eagles-Dolphins game just a few years ago. I think was that 2015?
I think it was, yes.
So that was the last one, and afterwards I was like, I'm okay not getting to another game for a while.
Right.
And, I mean, it's not that I had a bad experience in Philadelphia or anything, because obviously I was rooting for the Dolphins, and the Dolphins did win that game, thankfully. But I don't know. It's just the drive down, the expensive parking, the expensive food, the getting out of the parking lot and getting home, it just has no match to just being at home and be able to watch whatever you want, stay up to date on fantasy, be able to use your own bathroom and not have to go, they've got a long way to go. But, I mean, their stadiums, a lot of them are still selling out, and a lot of them have season ticket holders, a wait list for them. Then you see some other areas like in Los Angeles where that's not the case.
Right.
But I feel like they should have known that going in.
Right.
But anyways, a little bit off topic here. Let's keep rolling through the game. So New England beat Tampa Bay 19-14. New England moved to 3-2, but the Bucks dropped to 2-2. A couple games here. Not going to talk too much about. Jets at Browns. The Jets get the win. One they needed if they wanted to actually keep up this facade that they're a good football team.
They're tied for first place.
We did say that a New York football team would be the worst in the league.
And we also, I think we both projected one to win their division, right?
Yes.
And we're right on both those accounts. We may just be a little off if we get a little more specific.
Just might have the conferences wrong.
Right. Oh, and the season doesn't end on October 8th.
Also, the Browns are awful.
Except for that, yeah. They benched the guy who everybody's like, oh, maybe Deshaun Kaiser's the guy. Well, they benched him today, and then they scored. So,
who knows what they're doing?
Yeah.
They're just bad.
That's the problem. No one knows what they're doing.
The Jets, I mean, they're obviously better than we thought they were going to be. They're not, a team that's going to win just a couple games.
Somebody did make a good point. You look at all the guys that they released, and everybody's like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Have any of them produced anywhere? A bunch of them aren't in the league. And a bunch of them are just not producing at all. So
might have been time to cut.
Don't get me wrong; they were trying to tank. Like that is what they were doing.
Not working.
They were trying to save money, but at the same time, they did cut guys that it didn't really hurt. As of now, it hasn't really hurt them that they cut those guys.
So and looking over these games, at least the way the NFL.com has them, including the Thursday night game, the first 7 games were all decided by 6 points or less that we're going to talk about.
But we mention all the time, close doesn't equal good.
Right, yeah.
It
just
can
because
equal
it was competitive, just
but,
as competitive and entertaining doesn't mean it was good football.
Right.
But Jets beat the Browns 17-14. Another one, Detroit, they can't get down early. Because, I mean, if they weren't down early and they played as well as they do in the fourth all the time, they'd be beating up on teams.
If they just played even and then played the fourth quarter, they'd win like all of their games.
Because they were down a significant amount to the Panthers early in the third quarter. Actually, early in the fourth quarter, it was 27-10. And the Lions stormed back, scored 2 touchdowns, and they were trying their best to pull one out again, just weren't able to do it. But now they've had 2 tough home losses to NFC South teams in the Falcons and the Panthers. But Detroit hanging tough, not able to get it done against Carolina today. They lose 27-24.
Yeah, so I think that's a big loss for the Lions, especially with some of the other results around the league today. But it's a huge win for the Panthers. The first time Cam Newton has passed for over 300 yards in back-to-back games since the first 2 games of his career, which is pretty crazy when you think about.
Well, think of how they were in 2015 too.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I thought they were going with the stat, but it was actually the first and second game of his career.
That's crazy.
Yeah, to pass for over 300 yards in those first 2 games, that's nuts. So, yeah, anyway, they're looking good, and that's not exactly what I want because that's where the Eagles head on Thursday.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple people watching live. Scott and Zach and a few other people have been bouncing in and out, but both of them left comments, and one of Zach's was looking forward to that game Thursday night.
Yeah, see, this is maybe the pessimist in me, like right away. I'm basically going to concede that game and be optimistic about the mini bye then going into the Redskins the following week.
That's a more important game for sure.
Right. And if you, this is getting way ahead, but if you were to tell me the Eagles would be 5-2 with a 3-0 division record 2 weeks from now,
take it.
Right. And that would mean the Eagles, I would get a trifecta on that weekend, and we already mentioned we want the trifecta.
We want the trifecta in 2 weeks, yeah.
Right.
I'm not, next week we can't get a trifecta because Penn State's on a bye.
Right, exactly. So,
and we hope that Wilson wins Friday night, and it's a much more manageable game Friday night than it is 2 weeks from now. Yes. But that's why we want 2 weeks from now. We want that win Friday, Saturday, and you won it on Sunday.
Right.
So that would be that three-peat there. That's what we want 2 weeks from now. Wilson, Penn State, and you want the Eagles.
And you'll live with the Eagles
I'll
winning.
live with the Eagles if it means I get the first 2.
Right.
I can handle that. So another couple or a few close games here until we get to a surprising one out in western Pennsylvania. 49ers at Colts. San Francisco winless still as the Colts able to squeak one out in overtime. Adam Vinatieri had himself a day. Of course, I benched him in fantasy, but that's okay. I'm still going to win. 26-23, Colts win it in overtime on the day after they unveiled the Manning statue, and I believe the game that they honored him in their Ring of Fame or whatever they call it.
Put it in the ring, and they also, a bunch of the guys were back. I don't know if you saw, he took a snap from Jeff Saturday and threw it past to Reggie Wayne in the end zone.
Nice. The good old college days for us. That's when he was pulling that stuff out. We were in college. Crazy to think that was that long ago.
Yeah, crazy.
Saturday
one
and
word
Wayne.
for it.
Sad.
That's another one.
So right before the game started this afternoon, I've been texting Justin all week, but I texted him again like around noon, 12:30, and I just wanted to know what am I going to do about my eliminator because I had picked Tennessee just a few days ago. I decided that's the one I was going to go with. And then it was announced that Mariota wasn't playing. And I didn't think the football gods would appreciate me taking a team, playing my team at home with a backup quarterback. So it just didn't feel right. So I texted Justin again. He never gave me any concrete stuff because I don't think he wanted me to take the Eagles because he didn't want me.
No, I didn't want you to take the Eagles.
He didn't want to feel my wrath if they would lose.
Exactly.
But I switched from Tennessee over Miami to Philadelphia over Arizona. And as we're about to see, that was a good decision because the Dolphins miraculously beat the Titans today, 16-10. Now, Tennessee didn't have Mariota.
I think Jay Cutler threw for 95 yards.
I also believe he was benched for Matt Moore.
Okay. I know there were 2 starting quarterbacks today who threw for less than 100 yards and won.
Crazy.
I believe Jay Cutler is one of those.
So he started and threw for less. I don't believe he finished, although I didn't get to see all that much of the early games live. So
yeah, you didn't want to see this one anyway. It was,
right. Like, those big plays, man, 6. So, obviously, Tennessee hurting without Mariota, but they were coming off of shellacking last week from the Texans, and Tennessee was our pick in the AFC South, so it's a little disappointing to see them put up 10 against Miami. Now, Miami's defense hasn't been the problem. It's been the offense.
Right.
So, Miami holding Tennessee, albeit backup quarterback, to 10 points. I believe Matt Castle was their guy today. That's fine, but Miami's still only putting up 16. I mean, they got to be getting at least 24, and they're just not getting it.
It becomes a big question in my mind about the Dolphins is Ryan Tannehill the difference between this offense being bad and this offense being good?
I don't know.
Right.
It's working in his favor right
But
now.
see, that's the problem, is no one knows right now, I
Right.
don't think. And so you end up, now he's signed for a while, right? Like
a few more
because
years.
they signed, right.
I'd
So
say at least 3.
it's not like the Bortles situation where they have to decide
Right.
what are they going to do. I think they've got him, but yeah, like you said, the defense isn't in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, we have needs everywhere, So if you can get the offense clicking, that'd be one thing. But as of right now, it's hard to imagine that they wouldn't have been better off going with Matt Moore, right?
Yeah.
And maybe addressing some other needs, trying to sign
Who knows?
someone. I don't know. It's easy for us to kind of sit here
Sure.
and say, but what is the Dolphins' record? Are they
2-2 because they beat
right.
the Chargers.
So
and
they're
they
2-2.
lost
So they're
to
only a half game out of first place
Jets
in the
and
division
Saints.
because everyone else is kind of right there too. So.
Right. So New England got the win to move to 3-2, but Miami got the win to move to 2-2. But one of their foes, who had been looking good for a few weeks, Buffalo, went to Cincinnati and lost today.
Looking good. They had back-to-back.
They beat the Broncos and the Falcons,
Right.
and then they lose to the Bengals, who
Right.
couldn't score to
No.
start the year.
Yeah.
So they lose.
This is a bad loss. For
Cincinnati
the Bills.
beats them 20-16. Buffalo, looking like they could start to take control of the AFC East and put pressure on the Patriots, and they stumble in Cincinnati.
Right.
AJ Green had a big day. Of course, I picked up Charles Clay in 2 fantasy leagues, and he went out with an injury. So,
But sitting there on Thursday afternoon, I was like, man, there's a realistic chance that New England loses, even though I wasn't going to pick them to lose. There's a
Right.
realistic chance that they lose on Thursday night, and you could argue that they should have lost on Thursday night. And the Bills should have won this game. So, there could have been, that would have been interesting because you would have had
2 and 3
Patriots
and
at 2
4
and
and
3
1.
and 4 and 1.
2 games back.
Right.
Yeah.
And, well, the Patriots handled their business, and the Bills did not handle theirs. So, and next thing you know, they're tied. So, that's not exactly the weekend there's upstate New York fans wanted. So.
No, not at all. Well, we talked about a New York team being bad. Well, there's only one of them that's 0-5. And I believe, once again, Eli is denied a victory against the team that originally drafted him.
Yes.
He has not beaten the Chargers.
Really? I didn't know that.
I believe
but
he's 0-4 now against them.
somebody, I think it was Adam Schefter, tweeted out, this may be the worst day in the Giants' history.
To be 0-5.
Well, they dropped to 0-5.
Oh, and Odell Beckham broke his leg or ankle.
Breaks his ankle, and their next 2 top receivers also are scheduled for MRIs tomorrow.
Oh.
Because they lost their
Sterling
top 3
Shepard
and Brandon Marshall are all left the game hurt.
Wow.
Yeah. And you moved to 0-5. You lost to a previously winless team.
Right.
Coming east in a 1:00 game.
Oh, right. This was at home. I was thinking this was in L.A.
No.
Yeah, that's even worse.
And they said, don't get me wrong, but if you look at what can go wrong for an NFL team in a Sunday, not much more could go wrong for
maybe
a
if
team
Eli would have gotten hurt, although some might say maybe a
Right,
gift.
right.
Who is the backup in New York right now?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, hasn't he started every game that he's ever
you know
played?
what? Isn't it Ryan Nassib?
That's who I was thinking, but I wasn't sure if it still was.
I don't know. He was the last one I knew because
They took him from Syracuse.
well, and I knew Carl was at Penn State. It's his brother. So
oh, right.
yeah. So that's how I
he's
knew that.
Also on a winless team.
Yes. Yeah, but one of those teams is supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Giants, man. Oof.
My
Don't get me wrong. I had no problem watching the Giants lose.
my Super Bowl pick, not my Super Bowl representative from the NFC, not looking too good.
Yeah, I picked them to win the East, and I hope that's wrong, man.
Man, do you think could Eli get the hook when McAdoo done?
They could both be done, right?
I mean, it's New York. Anything's possible.
Why would you bring in a new one? Here, if you change coaches, you can stick with Eli and draft someone. You can do that. But I don't know that McAdoo lasts through getting rid of Eli and then getting someone,
Right.
because let's look at it. And I know I'm not going to make the argument that it should mean anything, but Eli's the one that won him 2 Super Bowls out of him and McAdoo.
Right.
You know, somebody said, look, people can say what they want about Doug Peterson, right? Somebody's like, I don't hear a lot of people saying they wish McAdoo would have taken the Eagles' offer, because the Eagles reportedly had made an offer to him that he didn't want. Yeah.
So we don't have the game up live. That'd be the Chiefs-Texans game. But according to Jan watching live, he said that J.J. Watt was just helped off the field.
Oh.
So
Okay.
that's not good for the Texans, although Kansas City is up just 3-0 nearing the end of the first.
Right, and Texans have the ball in Kansas City territory, although second and 19.
Is an alert on NFL.com about the J.J. Watt injury as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, so Chargers beat the Giants 27-22. First win for the L.A. Chargers. Giants dropped to 0-5. Surprising one in Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Steel City. You know, there was a game of it at halftime. It was 7-6, and then Jacksonville opened it up in the second half, and the Steelers couldn't keep with it. Pittsburgh, no touchdowns on the day. Well, at least their offense gave up some touchdowns on the day.
Yeah.
I did not play the Jaguars defense, by the way.
Yeah. The Jaguars had 5 interceptions
It's crazy.
and 2 pick sixes. Leonard Fournette rushed for 170-some yards, I think. 172 yards.
182
Okay.
or 181, something like
90
that.
of which came on one run. But, like, it's not like he
It's
ran
okay,
for
I'll
100.
we'll take
Right.
it. We have
90-yard
him in the
run.
league.
Right, for a touchdown. Like, just, and then Ben says, this is another one of those where I feel like he's just saying what he's thinking, and people are going to just jump all over him for it. But he says, maybe I just don't have it anymore.
Well, people I
Well.
know were saying that it looks like he's been checked out since the end of last year.
Well,
Like
he
talked
in
about
theory,
leaving.
he talked about retirement, but you never know what to think with him because he's always one to kind of have a flair for the dramatic, let's say,
Yeah.
right? He's always one that lets you know how hurt he is, and he plays through it. Now, he's been great. Like, I'm not taking that away, but, like, he lets you know every obstacle he has, right? Like, it's pretty well documented. And the retirement thing, I think a lot of people, including me, kind of chalked it up to, you know what, he's just kind of messing with it. But he does kind of seem like he doesn't really, it's not that he doesn't care, but this does not look like the Steelers team. Like, you keep waiting for them to, like, get out of it.
Yeah,
and
I
they're
know.
not.
I know they struggled in that first week against Cleveland, and the Browns don't look like they're any good.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting for them. You feel like they have the pieces.
Listen, this is still another one, like the Patriots. We've seen this movie, right?
We saw it
We've-
last year.
We've seen this. People are going to write them off. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Steelers-Patriots AFC Championship game.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all. And honestly, if you gave me the Chiefs, I'd probably like those 3, and, you know, 2 of those 3 teams aren't playing well at all right now. I'd still, you know, I'd think, oh, well, that's probably your best chance.
Yeah.
You know, like, because, wow, he dove in from the 4. Tommy Stevens tried that. But
It didn't work. Didn't work as well.
Right. Well, he still did all right, but
I mean, we still score. That's
didn't
not
go
it.
like that, right? But anyway, Steelers. I mean, Ben threw for over 300 yards, but
5
picks.
interceptions. This is the most he's ever thrown.
That's hard to do. It's hard to
It
do.
is throw that many.
Jaguars had the number 1 pass defense coming into the day. They gave up 300 yards, but intercepted Ben 5 times and didn't give up a touchdown.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Like
So,
I said, it
yeah.
was in the first half. It was anybody's game.
Oh my
You
gosh,
know,
yeah.
it was. I think what did I say,
Because
7-6
Jacksonville's
at
offense
halftime.
isn't going to do anything because I mentioned 2 quarterbacks under 100 yards. Blake Bortles threw for 92 yards in a
Did
win.
he really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Now, they didn't have to. Leonard Fournette ran for 170 or 180 some yards. You know, and this is not a team that's going to, like, you know, pass when they can run. No, they're going to hand it to Fournette and run. But yeah, that.
I'm used to this from the Steelers, not the Patriots, though.
Yeah,
They're not a team that
The
usually
Steelers are
struggles
much
for a
more
bit.
that like roller coaster ride,
Yeah.
and then they hit their
They have
stride
that
and
October
they're
dip,
fine.
and then once November comes around,
Right,
they'll be fire.
right, yes, and I'll believe it when I see it that this is going to be something that lasts longer.
Barry Church, you know what high school you went to?
No,
Penn Hills.
I did not know that.
Now you do. The more you know.
I was hoping Puzzlesny would get one of these, just because I know he's a Pittsburgh boy too.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, not a good day for the Steelers Nation. Where was that?
To?
Where was
that? Was a bad one.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Man, there was no one in the area.
Right.
That must have just been an overthrow.
And watch. Oh man, Antonio Brown still, man.
Did he throw any water?
I was going to
today?
say, so it's kind of interesting that because they were in the news all week about.
He said he's like, I'm glad I got called out or whatever.
Right.
So we're gonna see Fournette's touchdown here. Is that what's coming up?
Yeah. Here it is.
I can't believe.
Whoop.
Oh man.
And gone. Oh, and then your running back is outrunning your entire secondary. Like he's putting distance there.
Yeah.
Not like.
Wow.
Yeah. I believe Chad's parents were out at the game.
Were they?
I think so. I know they went. I think they were out there visiting friends, but
sure, why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, tough one to swallow for the Steelers. They got to regroup if they want to be one of the better teams in the AFC. Lucky for them, like we said, no one's really playing that well, so they're not out of it yet. And now they are technically behind the Jaguars in the playoff races. They're both 3-2, but they have that loss to Jacksonville.
Yeah. So I mean, Jacksonville, one of those where, we write them off as they're not that good, but they've beaten Houston, they've beaten the Steelers, and they beat the Ravens, right? That's
they destroyed them.
Yeah.
I don't. Man, that's one team for sure that I just don't get. But then they also got destroyed by the Titans.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of Jacksonville.
It's hard to judge the Titans if Mariota's not healthy.
Right.
However,
the game against Miami today,
I missed games last year and this year. Now it's starting to get fair to say, how much can you count on him?
Right.
I like Mariota. I really do. But when you miss games back-to-back years, then it starts to become a question. So.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what to say. I don't hold today's loss to the Dolphins against them as a team overall, especially if Mariota can be back next week.
Right. If he's out a week, not a big deal.
If he misses
last year.
3,
right.
4, now you're starting to really tank the potential.
In that division, I'm not sure one game is going to be the difference between them making the playoffs or not. But 2 or 3 starts to get interesting. So.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Eagles here and show some highlights, but they're failing to load. So let's just talk about the game.
Okay.
Fast start today. Fast start from Philadelphia.
So, Eagles kicked off. They deferred, which they were actually talking a lot about on the radio because a lot of teams will kind of have made up in their mind what they want to do. The Eagles have been, under Peterson anyway, kind of depending on who they're playing. If they win the toss, they'll do certain things. But anyway, they kick off. They hold Arizona to pretty much 3 and out. They punt. Kenyon Barner is now the punt returner after he had a stint in Philly and then was let go. But with Sproles being put on IR, they brought Kenyon Barner back, and he had a heck of a game. They had him lined up in the backfield running, kind of like a Sproles-type role. Sproles / Wendell Smallwood, who missed today with a knee injury. So they have him there, and then his second punt return, though. So the Eagles march right down the field. Wentz leads a beautiful drive and hits Burton for a touchdown, I believe. And then they go, and this might be it. Oh, no, that's not, because he threw to the other side.
If it loads properly. Let's see.
But anyway,
here we go.
3rd and 11. This could be it. Because they were insane. No, okay. They were insane on 3rd downs today.
And I went to Jeffrey.
Right. They were insane on 3rd down. It's going to be down here at the bottom. So Burton's going to come to the bottom of the screen. I know they can't see my hand there, but so beautiful throw.
2nd and 7.
Right. And your third, that's your third tight end who went out and made that catch.
I was going to say, I don't even know who that is. I have no idea.
Yeah, he's a special teams guy.
Now he's got a touchdown.
Right, yeah. So the defense was swarming.
Did Fletcher Cox play today?
No, he didn't. He was out. Yeah, they did all this without Fletcher Cox, and Rodney McLeod was back. But this is Kenyon Barner's second punt return. Watch this. So he took it at the 10, and he returned. He's going to return it.
Sick.
He's going to return it to the 15, right? And then they were able to punch in. So the Eagles jump out to a 21-0 lead, and just like that, and you're like, okay, like I would love for the game to keep going like this. I'm pretty sure it won't keep going exactly like this, just because it's hard to keep that kind of intensity, and it's the NFL. Like, you're not going to just steamroll a team like in college, But at the same time, so then we hit a different tight end, right? Ertz got one.
Who's the backup? Is it still Selleck?
Yeah, Selleck's there.
Huh.
So it's, yeah.
This is probably his last year, though.
Probably, yes. Here we go. Watch this move by Aguilar. Ready?
No, it's Torrey Smith.
Oh, sorry. That's Torrey Smith. Aguilar's touchdown is later.
Yeah.
Sorry. On the same play.
Oh,
right?
really?
So, yeah, pretty much. But he jukes the safety out of his shoes on it. So Torrey Smith, who, was out there saying, I can contribute. And this is getting a lot of play. Right? This is getting a lot of play. This is the touchdown celebration. Because I believe they did it right in front of Mike Trout, by the way, who was there.
Did they?
Yeah. So, and he loved it. But anyway, they do give up a score to the Cardinals then once they were up 21-0. But then they were able to, despite an interception in the end zone right before halftime that Wentz threw when they could have kicked a field goal to go up 24-7, they were getting the ball to start the second half, and they were able to kind of come back and be all right. Yeah, they were putting it on. Yeah. The defensive line has been playing really well. They were able to run the ball again today. One's getting off for a run. This is one. So they marked him a yard short, right? And I was screaming. I was like, he dove head first. He dove head first. They met and they talked, and they didn't even review it. They talked and they moved it, and they gave him the first down because he didn't get touched. So he dove head first, but didn't get touched. See, there was right, just late on the throw, and I was mad because it would have been a long field goal, but they had a chance. This is a great pick. They had his feet down here. But
Antoine Bethea.
Yeah. But then, so, the Cardinals actually drive down and have a chance for a field goal before halftime here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a 6-point swing right before half. It's going to be an 11-point game. I'm frustrated at this point because I know the Cardinals, with their passing, because that's all they've really been able to do. But with their passing, that's something that could get them back in the game in a hurry.
Now,
and you see they get right down into field goal range. And then the Eagles make a play and block the field goal.
Hey,
right.
You got to have all facets of the game.
Right. And special teams was great today. Special teams was great. So get a hand on the field goal.
I was going to say, if that doesn't roll out of the back of the end zone, they could return that.
Right, yeah.
Awesome. Last play, what do you have to lose?
Right.
Last play of the first half.
So here it is. Nelson Aguilar. Now watch. Ready?
Whoop! Oh man, that's sick. Yeah, I did see that one. Because I saw the way that he goes into the. Yeah. So here's a question for you as we watch the rest of the highlights from the second half. This has been talked about a lot, and it's been posed by a commenter. Jan once again talks about the Eagles guard situation.
Ooh, it's still ugly.
Everywhere
else they've been great.
But why? Guard rotation is an interesting thing that I'm not sure is done all that often. I mean, it's offensive line, so maybe it doesn't get a lot of play, but in Philadelphia, everything gets a lot of play.
Yes.
And now, obviously, I'm biased because one is guys at Penn Stater and one guy is from Alabama. But
they've been working the third guy in, too. They've actually, at times, had a 3-person rotation at left guard.
Why? Is one better pass blocker, better run blocker?
Supposedly, Warmack can only run block. That's what I've picked up from other people. I don't know that, but that's what I've picked up from other people. They count that as a fumble, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, so with Warmack, Warmack was a first-round pick by the Titans, and then he was cut. But then you get to, let's see, Wisniewski, and I mean, maybe they just don't think he's quite there yet. I don't know. But he's done
he's
better.
Been a journeyman. He's bounced around
but
to
he's
a few
done better.
teams.
Like when he's in the game, he's
Well,
been
good.
better. So
I wish they would settle on him.
right, and
He's nice in center too because he's naturally a center. At least in his
Right.
time in the NFL, he's been a center. Penn State, he played guard and center.
Right.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of hopeful someone will just settle in, because the Eagles. I don't really care who it is, as long as
as long as they're winning,
I'd love someone
keep
to
rotating.
I'd
but-
love someone to win into that situation
right,
instead of
be
the
the
kind of
guy.
keep we keep rotating guys through because guys keep messing up. But anyway, that was a big win for the Eagles. I told you the reason I didn't want you to pick that game because I had sent this to you earlier in the week. This is the game where you're like, oh man, you're 3-1, you're playing a team 2-2, a Western team coming east for an early start, a team that has had struggles. It's without their best offensive player now. Larry Fitzgerald's still great. Carson Palmer was great, but Johnson was their best their best offensive threat, and they can't block because the left side of their line is gone. Right, they lost their left guard and their left tackle, so they're struggling. Their defense isn't what it was. All those reasons are reasons why I'm like, this is a game I've seen the Eagles lose how many times?
This is a game the Eagles lose in the last 5 years.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure obviously it had
And
to happen during the Andy Reid era.
Right.
But
I'm not saying pencil them in for winning the division because they're at 4-1. That's not what I'm saying. But we've seen them lose this game for the last 5 years. They've lost this game. This game is one they've lost. And then they missed the playoffs by a game, and you're like, well,
exactly.
there it is.
I've seen the Dolphins do that time and time again
Right.
over the last 15 years. That this is a team that is 6-10 to 10-6, but they lose that game. And they end up going 7-9 or 8-8, and they're stuck in that mediocrity we always talk about.
Or you lose the division by a game, and instead you're the wild card. Now you're going on the road to you're going to Atlanta. Not necessarily Atlanta, but you're going to Atlanta in the first round of the playoffs, or to Carolina instead of hosting somebody.
a game,
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. It's 4-1. It's it's the second Sunday in October, but that's a big win because it's a game they should win. And we alluded to this in the schedule earlier. They're the road team on Thursday at Carolina. Carolina looks good. I would love for Philadelphia.
This is a huge game.
I would love for Philadelphia to win that game. But like I said, I would trade that one for Week 7. I know that may seem a little foolish, but to get to 3-0 and to knock Washington down a notch would be huge, in my opinion.
Right.
Now, Washington
go
has the bye this week, but
you're
they play
right. You
next
go
week.
from Thursday night to Monday night.
Right. So they get the mini bye there. And then they only have, they play on the 29th, and then they play on the 9th, but then they have the bye in Week 10. So it's kind of like...
They don't go on the road for a month.
Right. Yeah.
So you go to Carolina this week, short week, Thursday night, huge game, 4-1 versus 4-1. Then you host the Redskins, host the 49ers, host the Broncos, go on a bye before you go to Dallas on November 19th.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and they have the bye going into the Dallas week. There's lots of things here for the schedule, the middle part of the schedule, which was brutal to them last year. Not necessarily just in opponents, but in their actual product that they were putting on the field. If they're going to, I don't even want to say it, but they need to split Carolina and Washington. If they split that, if they're
going to lose a game,
right. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I'd love for them to win either one of those. They have to beat San Francisco. San Francisco's coming east. That's a 1:00 game. They've got to win that one, right? That if you want to be a playoff team, that's a game you must win. And then you look at, Denver coming in. I'd say toss up. It's hard to say because Denver's on a bye this week, aren't they? Yeah. So you didn't get to see them. They've kind of been up and down, but that that defense
they beat up on the Cowboys
right.
and then they lose to the Bills.
Right. That defense is still something special. So, but if they could make it if they go 3-1 over their next 4, that would be, then it would be hard for me to contain my excitement. Even though I'm not saying it's easy from there. It's not easy at all from there. But I'd start to get excited, because they're going to have meaningful games down the stretch, regardless at that point.
Right.
The
schedule makers
not
must
easy.
have favored the Eagles because did they have a primetime game yet this year?
No.
They haven't in the first 5 weeks, but take a look at the rest.
Yeah.
They've got Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night, Sunday night, Monday night
Yeah.
over the last, technically 13 weeks of the season,
Right.
but 12 games. Or 11 games. 11 games.
So they
12 weeks
are
of the season,
away
11 games.
3 weeks in a row. The first 3 weeks of December.
Right.
At
well,
Seattle, at LA,
and at the Giants.
and at the Giants. Now, I think that Seattle, LA may have been one of the things they asked for because they were playing both
To
LA
do
teams
both.
this year.
Yeah, so you
That
don't
if
have
for
to.
one and Seattle, if they could stay out there, I think they may stay out there that week of December 3rd to December 10th. So, but anyway, still a long way to go. They're 5 games into the season, but to be at 4-1
Well, yeah, it's better
with
to
their,
be
with their
4-1
only
than
loss to the
3-2
Chiefs,
or
Right.
2-3. I mean,
right? So
yeah, and
I'm
right.
happy.
Their only losses to the Chiefs, who right now are the best team record-wise in the NFL.
Right, and they competed. They were able to compete in that game, and it was in Kansas City. So, hey, and I'm telling you, I don't know. I'm really hopeful, but they're going to start getting some guys back in the secondary, including possibly, is it Sidney Jones? The guy from Washington that dislocated his ankle like last year and was out like most of the year.
Was that last year, man? I thought they just drafted him this year.
No, they did.
Oh,
He
okay.
hurt his ankle last year.
Yes.
Yes, they drafted him.
Was he on PUP or was he put on IR?
I think he was on PUP. I think.
I expected him to miss the whole year, but
No,
I
well,
don't
there's
know.
talk that he may be starting to practice soon. Now, that's a long way, but they've got some young guys back there, and as guys start to get healthy, because like 2 weeks ago they had 4 guys, they had four defensive backs.
Are we talking
healthy.
about Wilson or are we talking?
Yeah,
about...
it kind of seems like a theme, but if they can keep getting the trifecta weekends, I'm happy. So, we'll
Yeah.
see. Eagles need to keep it going.
Yeah, well, right here, Jan talks about the cornerbacks, the Eagles cornerbacks. He says, don't dismiss the experience the young corners are getting. Cox should be back for Washington.
Right.
Maybe Ronald Darby. I don't know. I'm not keeping up. I know that was a kind of a disgusting injury.
It was,
earlier.
but it was no ligament damage, so it was.
Well, that's good.
It was like I think the 6 to 8 weeks.
And he
technically.
says Sidney Jones may be ready to play against Dallas. And
Okay, so
Dallas
after
is
the
in
bye.
November 19th.
Right.
Yeah, so hey, keep an eye on that for sure.
See, I would love to have Darby back for the Washington game. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'd love to have him back. Don't rush him back though. But man, if they could manage a win at Carolina, that would be huge because then, not that there's not as much pressure, but you still have that mini bye going into the Washington game. Yeah, NFL's got to be excited. CBS has to be really excited about Thursday night.
Yeah,
big
to
game.
have to form one
Yeah.
team squaring off. I'm not
Yeah.
sure anyone would have expected that to happen.
So.
All right, final 3 games to talk about. Seahawks at Rams. This is one that
Oh
over the last few years
gosh,
the Rams
this is-
have always gotten away with. Unable to do it this year in Los Angeles. Seattle came to town. They were tied at halftime 10-10. Put up 2 field goals, 16-10. Seahawks win. They needed this one for sure because more was expected of them than the Rams.
This
But
is perfect example though. Close game doesn't mean good game.
right.
And don't give me, oh, well, they're 2 great defenses. No, they're 2 good defenses. And
have been better in the past.
right. And it's hard to, the defense can be good and the offense still be bad. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
yes, the Rams' defense is good, but the Seahawks' offense is bad.
That's what I was going to say.
Like-
The biggest takeaway here is that Seattle's offense is still bad because they have a terrible offensive line and they can't get their running game going.
No, because they did the exact opposite of what we've seen successful teams do the last few years. I know it sounds ridiculous because it sounds like such an obvious concept. Invest in your offensive line, and virtually everything else on offense will be taken care of, right? They have a quarterback, they've got skilled players, so if they can protect them, you would think they'll be fine. They can't protect them at all. Russell Wilson is running for his life every time he drops back.
But
They don't have a receiver that can get open.
They got the win that they needed, but Seattle not the team.
No.
Both our NFC champ picks are struggling.
Yeah.
Mine, obviously, at 0-5 is not doing
Right.
anyone good. But yours in Seattle, and I may have even had Seattle in the NFC Championship.
So Cam Chancellor got juked today and missed the tackle, and somebody was like, "Man, seeing Cam Chancellor get juked like that, it's like the same feeling you get watching your dad get beat up or something like that." Because you're just referencing this was the Legion of Boom,
Right.
and Now, they still held the Rams to one touchdown, and Jared Goff had been putting up huge numbers.
Yeah,
so,
he was.
The defense played well. Like, they gave up 10 points in an NFL game. That's not a problem.
Right. The
The
Rams have
offense
been
was
averaging, I think, like 35
awful.
a game or something like
Right.
that. So, yeah, Seattle offense is holding them back, but we've heard that schism up there before, offense
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
defense, and it may not be going away anytime soon. Speaking of teams that I
Wow.
can't get a grasp on,
No.
now I know Derek Carr, much like Marcus Mariota,
Yeah.
oft injured now over the last year, can't get anything going in Oakland with E.J. Manuel. Surprise, surprise. But Baltimore putting up 30, including 24 in the first half.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a team that 2 weeks ago got destroyed by the Jaguars in London.
Right. Yeah, and then think
this
about,
is one of the games that makes me so confused on the start of this season.
Think about the travel. They played in London 2 weeks ago. They were in Baltimore last week, I
And
believe, and lost. And then they traveled to Oakland this week. Like, you know, in a 2 week span. I know they didn't travel the middle week, but that's a long way. You know, like, you're talking 9 hours difference between the two places you played 2 weeks apart. But anyway, yeah, the Raiders, like, I don't know what to think. But there's two teams I don't know what to think. The Ravens, you know, they've had moments where they lose 44-0 in London. You're like, oh my gosh. But then they have moments where you're like, oh, well.
And they lost to Pittsburgh last week, and
Right,
Pittsburgh
I
looked
know,
terrible
I
today
know.
against Jackson.
But then they travel to Oakland and they win. And I know Oakland doesn't have Derek Carr, but like they travel to Oakland and win. Like,
right, and the Raiders are supposed to be more than Carr. They're supposed to have a really good defense,
right.
putting up 30
Amari
points.
Cooper can't catch a cold this year.
Crabtree can, though.
Yes,
so.
but he was hurt last week.
Exactly. That's why I
Right.
didn't play him today. So, yeah,
But,
Baltimore and Oakland just kind of, they're the ones that leave me scratching my head for sure. I just can't get it.
But whereas Oakland's in a much worse position because Denver looks legit and
City's
Kansas
definitely
City
good.
is legit.
Chargers are playing everyone tough.
The Ravens, we talked about their division. Browns, cross them off the list. They're no threat. Maybe they might be a threat to win a game because the Ravens have been so inconsistent, but not for the division. Cincinnati, you know, maybe if they can get things rolling
Yeah,
there.
who
They
knows
won
with them,
today,
it's
but
tough.
like they've looked awful. And then the Steelers, like we keep
And they already lost to the Steelers.
Right, we think the Steelers are going to get it rolling, but like they haven't really shown anything to make you think, oh yeah, they've got it. You know, so AFC North, man, ugh.
Yeah,
They'll get it going. The Steelers will get it going. Why? Because they're the Steelers, right? And they'll make us watch that. So,
So, the last, what were you going to say? I thought you were
I was
ready.
just going to say I'm ready to talk about this one too.
Well, we're not going to spend too much time on it because we're going to wrap up. But
That's fine. We can spend
the,
just one
the
good
final
minute on
late
this one.
game to talk about was Packers at Cowboys. Early, it was all Dallas. They were up 21-6 for a while and 21-12 at halftime. Mason Crosby missed both extra points. One bounced off the uprights and out, and the other one was maybe a quasi-bad hold, at least threw off the timing. But you're an NFL player. You need to make that kick.
Right. And it's an extra point. It's not a 50-yard field
Right.
goal.
So they were down 21-12 at halftime, 21-15 after the third, and then all of a sudden the Cowboys couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers in the fourth quarter, giving up 20 points, including a touchdown pass with like 15 seconds left to Devontae Adams.
Yeah. And this is back-to-back weeks that the Cowboys have blown
Fourth quarter leads.
double-digit leads at home to the Rams and the Packers. Now, honestly, the Rams one is probably a worse one than this one.
But they saw
but-
this story last year.
Right. And Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is now 7-1 at Dallas.
Wow.
Including they ended their season in a similar fashion last year, in the playoffs. Yeah, they scored with 1:18 left, and
Too much time.
Troy Aikman is saying, they shouldn't have thrown it on second down. They left them too much time. And
see,
you're thinking like,
I
and
get
this,
that, but,
yeah, but
oh, man.
you're losing.
Right.
And you're losing by more than 3. It's one thing if you're down 3 and you know that, look, if they stonewall us out of the end zone here, we can kick a field goal, go to overtime. Like, I understand that. You were down 4. You have to score the touchdown. Score the touchdown. It's the defense's job. Because then you were up 3, right, against the kicker who had missed 2 extra points already that day.
You can allude to the fact that you have a great quarterback over there that can do the come from behind thing. When the moment's big, he becomes bigger. Whatever, that's great.
Right.
But to say like you need to basically take a knee or throw a play here and there to take time away, is ludicrous. It's kind of like the guy that I saw a few months ago on The Price is Right, who was making stupid bids because he was trying to figure out when they were going to give a car away. At least that's what I'm thinking he was doing, because, like, seriously, some of the bids for that, you know, when they're in contestants row or whatever they call it, he was bidding like $28,000 for like that opening thing, and like everyone's like, what is he doing? I'm guessing he was trying to figure out like when they were going to give a car away. That's my guess. Guess what? He never ended up getting picked because he was throwing his guesses.
Right, he should have gone, spun the wheel, win the showcase, and then you get your car.
Then you get your car. You don't have to worry about it. But that's exactly what when people are like, "Oh, there's too much time left."
No,
you were losing. You're not going to score. Right. Like, no, you got to put on your
all
defense.
on the defense. You give up 20 points in the fourth quarter, you don't deserve to win. Right? That's,
absolutely.
That's the reality of it.
That is the reality. So in the late game, Kansas City and Houston, a defensive slugfest, even with the Texans without J.J. Watt. They've only given up 2 field goals to the Chiefs, but Houston, Deshaun Watson, after putting up 50-plus last week, a big fat goose egg right now.
So again, though, this tells you what is up with New England. Well, I know it wasn't New England last week, but like New England gave up a ton of points to Deshaun
Houston,
Watson too,
to
like,
Carolina, to Kansas City.
Yeah. So man, that New England defense, something's not right there. Something's not right on the offensive line either. Tampa Bay had 1 sack coming into the week.
Would they have 3?
Yeah, at least 3.
So, well, the Monday night game tomorrow night, Vikings going to the Windy City to take on the Bears. Mitch Trubisky getting his first start. Not a great team to get your first start against because defensively the Vikings have been pretty solid. They've got a great secondary as well. Xavier Rhodes is becoming an elite corner in the league. Minnesota, though, struggling a bit recently. I guess the Case Keenum bandwagon, the wheels are starting to fall off. They haven't been able to get it done.
Although, Bradford was practicing some this week. So
I do not know
if
if
he was upgraded from doubtful to questionable.
Okay,
so I think he
probably
might be
a game time decision.
Right.
This is actually a game that I had considered for the eliminator, but a lot of people are picking the Bears in this one.
Yeah, honestly, if the Bears, I know they weren't good under Glennon, but like, who's going to take a rookie quarterback against the Vikings defense? I know the Vikings defense hasn't been quite as good.
I think Glennon's just a scapegoat, too, because they could have easily beaten the Falcons in Week 1, and they could have easily...
If they catch the ball in the end zone, they beat the Falcons.
They could have beaten the Bucs in Week 2.
Right.
I mean, I know the score wasn't as close as the Falcons game, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think it's all Glennon's fault, but the quarterback is always the first fall guy.
Right, and they drafted a guy number 2 overall.
Right, so you got to see what he's got.
They're going to play him, right.
Just like... and it's not make or break in this first game or first season because we saw Jared Goff looked awful last year. And now
new coach,
right,
which could happen in Chicago too.
Absolutely.
Here's one of the things that's interesting. They said the Browns have a ton of draft picks, right? You know, but they passed on basically Wentz. They passed on Dak, and they listed someone else from last year that they essentially passed on to get Deshaun Kaiser as their quarterback. Not to get that, but that's like where they're at now. And they're like, I know they have a lot of needs, and they have, they were able to trade out, but like Deshaun Kaiser, what's the story there going to be? Are they going to give up on him because they pulled him today? He's looked awful, but
he hasn't. A couple of flashes here and there, but overall, just
right.
Not
he's
getting
looked
it
worse
done.
each week, and that's like the opposite of what you need to have happen.
For sure. Because we've seen Deshaun Watson look. I don't want to say he's been looked better every week, but he'll have an average or a bad week and respond with a good week. You're going to get
Which
those
is what you want out
inconsistencies,
of a rookie.
But you want to see some improvement,
right.
and Kaiser's been going backwards, so who knows. But that's
Browns
week
are
5.
going to Brown, right?
Yeah, right. That's week 5 in a nutshell. We touched on everything and previewed the game tomorrow. We'll be back again in 2 weeks to talk about week 7 as we be inching ever so closely to that midway point here coming up.
That's crazy.
Crazy to think about. But hopefully we're elated and you're 3 for 3 2 weeks from now, because that would be a great thing in the high school world, the college world, and for you in the pro world. Because even with Miami's win today, I don't expect much.
That game is a Monday night game, isn't it? The Eagles-Redskins in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, I was going to drag it out.
Well, hopefully you're 2-0 when we're sitting here in 2 weeks.
You know what? I'll settle for that.
Yeah, for sure. So any shout-outs, anything to add before we get out of here?
No.
Yeah, I don't really think that I have anything to add either. So, thanks for joining us. This wraps up the 245th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
On Facebook Live.
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.